It works, but you don't always need it. I mean, he's done such a good job with the fact that he's created more club head speed, more ball speed. You go back to Boston, the country club, when he won, he was hitting some massive drives.
I think it caught a lot of people off guard how far he was hitting it when he won there in Boston. You know, everyone kind of thought of Fitzpatrick as a short hitter, a short to average hitter, and he was hitting it there with the longest in the field.
Well, he does a lot of indoor work as well, and you can see how quickly he sets into that right side. And you look at the left hand. Usually when you see a player like that, they're going to move the ball left to right. It's all they want to do is try to stabilize impact.
Might have caught a glimpse of the head cover that Fitzpatrick has in his bag, a replica of the lighthouse here in Hilton Head. Perhaps his playing partner behind him saying, "Oh, that's how you do it, all right." Seems to stick to finish, doesn't he?
Yeah, that was comfortable. You see these guys warming up in the morning. I mean, it's really amazing just how solid they hit the golf ball pretty much on every strike.
Kind of going rapid fire here. So from our defending champion to one of the favorites this week, Colin Swatton is standing by with Max Homa.
Well, I'm on the range here with Max Homa, coming off a T3 at the Masters, just a couple of hours drive up the street. What can you take out of last week, Max, and parlay into this week?
Yeah, a lot of the 3-woods I hit off the tee, the low ones, the low drivers, my kind of like fairway finder type golf shots I hit a few times last week each day, just so kind of leaning into that going into a very narrow golf course.
Well, obviously you got out this morning, played the Pro-Am, got a bite to eat for lunch, came back out with a GC quad, just dialing some of those wedges in. There's going to be a lot of those this week. What else do you think you need to do well around this golf course to be competitive?
Yeah, it obviously starts with the tee balls, I think, out here. Second shots from the fairway aren't too demanding. They're small greens, but it's not overly long. So if you can get it up in the fairway, you're going to have a lot of short irons. I do wedges every week. So just, felt like I've been kind of lazy the last 2 days, being a little tired. So want to get some work in. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty demanding golf course overall. You're obviously going to need to make some birdies, but I think you do that starting on the tee, keeping it between the tree line, and giving yourself some looks. So yeah, I mean, we did a lot of good work this morning on the golf course. So we're just kind of coming over here to whack a few and just do our due diligence before we get ready for tomorrow.
As always, Max, we are appreciative of your time and your honesty. Back to you guys.
Coming over to whack a few. I like it. Get your phones out. Get your pencils ready. Will Gray is with us next to analyze the picks and the odds from the RBC Heritage. Time now for Going for the Green, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's welcome in golf bet lead Will Gray. Will, envious of your office this week, man. I mean, it is perfect out there.
It is a pretty good spot to hang out this week for sure, Ned. Good to be with you, and let's talk some bets.
Yep, I like to win. Nobody likes to lose. You're the man who has all the information. So let's start with who's going to win. This is an easy pick for you, right? Who's winning this week?
Yeah, no pressure. Just tell me who's going to win the tournament, right, on Wednesday morning. So, listen, I really like Collin Morikawa at plus 1,800 this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, and let me tell you why. This is a place where you can kind of hide if you're not the best putter on the PGA Tour. This is a ball strikers course. Each of the last 9 winners at Harbour Town have been inside the top 11 strokes gained tee to green. 5 of those were inside the top 3. Collin Morikawa, one of the best ball strikers on the PGA Tour, but he's taken a step back in 2024. He was 4th tee to green last season, all the way down to 38th before last week. But I think he found something at the Masters. That T3 finish really probably got him going. And so I think that this is a situation where, what would his price be if Scottie Scheffler wasn't in the field? It would be much shorter than plus 1,800. I think there's some value in that number on a guy who really should fit this course well.
Okay, I can get on board with that, but I have to ask you, why no Patrick Cantlay? His record around here is sterling. He's got a 2nd and a 3rd in the last couple of years. So why not Patrick Cantlay?
Maybe the wounds for me haven't healed yet, because I did have Patrick Cantlay at Riviera and he couldn't get it done on Sunday. But listen, if we're looking at markets and how odds makers price in this information, Patrick Cantlay's run at Harbour Town is already priced into his outright number. And I don't think that the odds makers have necessarily caught up to Collin Morikawa and his recent run last week. So I think that that's why there could be a little bit more value from an outright perspective in Morikawa than Patrick Cantlay.
You see, folks, that's why you listen to Will Gray. It's the nuances of what we're doing here. I don't like to spend a lot of money, Will. I'm always looking for that good value to kind of buy one, get one free when I'm at the grocery store. So give me a value pick for the week.
Yeah, the long shot market, you can do worse than JT Poston. He's plus 5,500 at DraftKings Sportsbook, a North Carolina guy playing here in South Carolina, and he has gone red hot at Harbour Town on the weekend. He's made the cut 3 times here, finished inside the top 8 each of those times. His scoring average on the weekend is 66. Last time I checked, there's no cut this week. He's going to be around all 4 rounds. This is a place where JT Poston tends to get better as the week continues. He has cooled a little bit since that really strong start to the season, but I think that coming off a solid week at the Masters, this could be a place where he could once again go low. And I really think if he's in the mix through 36 holes, maybe someone to look at for a live play or in the outright market from an in-play perspective.
And it always closes well on Sunday. Okay, now head-to-head, and I hear you've had a very interesting selection here, so lay it on me.
All right, I'm going to try and get through this without getting struck by lightning, but I'm going to try and fade Scottie Scheffler. I think that the odds makers are getting a little aggressive with how they're pricing the Masters champion. He's at plus 6,500, 65-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook to win the Grand Slam this year. That's kind of where things are with the state of Scheffler. But you can get Xander Schauffele at plus 160 in a head-to-head matchup with Scottie Scheffler. I really like Xander this week. I think he's one of the best players in the field. He's 2nd in tee to green. We talked so much about how that's important here. He's coming off an 8th place finish at the Masters, was T4 here last year. There's a lot to like about Xander. Now listen, he hasn't won in about 2 years. I'm not really bullish on him winning, but I pretty much like the fact that he could finish, let's say T6, T7, and that might be enough to beat Scottie Scheffler at a really juicy price in this head-to-head. Remember, you got to go back to 2006 and Tiger Woods, the last time a player won a major, teed it up the next week, and won that week. I think we're asking a lot of Scheffler, given everything that's going on after slipping into that green jacket. He's got baby watch with Meredith back home. I think that there's value to be had in being strategic in how you fade Scottie Scheffler this week.
He said it. Will Gray said it, not me, folks. He's shorting Scottie Scheffler. He's fading the #1 player in the world. But he may be right. You never know. Let's have a little fun. Give me a couple of bets that we might be able to just sprinkle a little something on.
How much are we buying into momentum here, Ned? I really like what I saw out of Tom Kim for 1 round last week at the Masters. It was a final round 66. Listen, there's no doubt about the fact that it's been a struggle in 2024 for Tom Kim. He has not been as good as he's been in the last couple of years, but I think he might have turned it around in a big way on Sunday at Augusta National. So you can get his round 1 over-under 69.5. You're paying minus 105 at DraftKings Sportsbook for that. But I think he's going to be able to parlay his success on Sunday at Augusta Augusta into a really strong start here at Harbour Town. I'm not sure that I'm buying into him for a 72-hole situation because he's still somewhat volatile in the scoring, but I really think that this is a place, remember, it's a par 71. You've got 3 par 5s, so you only got to go 2 under to cash that under 69.5 for Tom Kim, round 1. I think that's a good return.
I am all over this. I love it. He's also just reconnected with his original swing coach, so a little bit better organized right now for Tom Kim's game. Hey, Will, thanks a lot for your time. Always appreciate your knowledge, good sir.
Yep, good to be with you, Ned.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the PGA Tour, and this week, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. The reigning champion golfer of the year, Brian Harman, getting loose on the range, putting the finishing touches on his preparation. It was 20 years ago this week that a scrawny but scrappy lefty, the #1 junior in the country, teed it up on debut here on the PGA Tour.
This is Brian Harman, 17 years old. So I'm 37, so it'll be more than half my life that I've spent, playing on tour. So that's pretty cool. I was only 17. I was so excited to get that chance. Gosh, I was so disappointed. I cracked my driver like the week before, and I drove it horrible that week. So I ended up finishing, I don't know, last or next to last or something. I didn't beat many people, but it was a great experience. It just solidified that it was what I wanted to do for sure. I always enjoy going back. It's a great course. You get Augusta, which is this big, long, and it's very difficult. And then you have like the complete opposite of Harbour Town, shot shaping, limited off the tee. So I think it's really important that we don't lose that side of the game.
Playing alongside Steve Elkington.
Yeah.
Talk about intimidating.
I had a long chat to his longtime instructor, Justin Parsons, just asking what they were working on, if it was all just maintenance at this part. And he was saying that with Harm, it's all about the posture at address. He needs a little bit more pelvic tilt, is what he was saying. From there, feels like he can turn a whole lot easier. So nothing too major that they're working on. And again, this is another golf swing that there's not much that can go wrong with that.
Yeah, you probably look at Brian, and you're going to see that the hands are a little more active than a lot of players. creates a lot of, club head speed. That's how he gets ball speed, club head speed, and you can watch the left hand, the trail arm, see how quick it opens up. A lot of guys try to keep it a little more square to the target, but Brian does a nice job of keeping everything in sync.
Two players in the field this week played in that 2004 edition. Justin Rose, who finished in a tie for 7th that year, and Lucas Glover as well. Pretty sweet. And so will the coverage be for the RBC Heritage. Thursday's coverage, PGA Tour Live, first round, 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can slide over to the Golf Channel at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for all the sights and sounds from Hilton Head. One of the players you know who's going to be making some noise, Billy. You've been kind of looking at him out of the corner of your eye all week. Ludvig Aberg, he's standing by with Colin Swadden.
Well, I'm on the range here with Ludvig Aberg. First major championship, first time at the Masters. You finished T2. Given the fact of where you were just 12 months ago and your meteoric rise to number 7 in the world, do you often have to stop and pinch yourself for a minute?
I think I do, actually. Yeah, funny enough, we were kind of talking about it walking down the last couple of holes on Sunday afternoon where we're playing Augusta, and talking about all the iconic shots that's been hit and kind of how the iconic long shadows are going over Augusta National when you play late on the Sunday. So, I mean, all these things that I'm doing, there are things that I've been wanting to do for such a long time, and I feel very, very privileged to be able to do that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was watching the telecast at home, and you looked incredibly comfortable. You've got a great man on the bag there, Joe Skovrin. The show is called On the Range, and we happened to get some pretty good footage of you and Joe, and you had your GC quad out on the range. What were you doing? It looked to me like you were trying to hit particular shots that you may face on the golf course. Just talk to us a little bit about what you were doing there with Joe, and then how it's obviously going to help you this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think playing different games on the range is my favorite. Because it's so easy to get stuck in hitting 7 irons and trying to hit the perfect flight, which is not really how you play golf. So what we try to do is we try to simulate how the golf course is going to get played. And once it gets a little windy here at Hilton Head, the trajectory and the spin rates are quite important, because if you go above the tree line, the wind might hit it. If you go under, it's going to go through a little bit easier. So we try to hit the different shots, hit different trajectories with different clubs, and because it's a Pete Dye golf course, it's a fun golf course, but you got to work the angle, so you got to make sure that you come in from the right side of the fairways and the greens.
Well, you mentioned obviously walking around Augusta National, talking about those iconic shots that have been hit over the many years. For all of our viewers out there, they're going to be waiting until you can add to those iconic shots in the near future. Big future ahead of you. Can't thank you enough for your time. Thank you as always.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
That is one cool customer right there. Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, 1050. Well, together, Fleetwood coming off a nice finish at the Masters. His game's been close. He's been close so many times, 5 times a runner-up on the PGA Tour, but has yet to visit victory lane.
I got to say one thing about Aberg. That's refreshing that he plays games on the range. He was really not swing technique, mechanics. He's got his own little deal, little set. Just plays a game on the range. Doesn't get trapped.
I'm more impressed every interview I see with Aberg. It's a old head on a young body. It's everything he says is correct, and it's I'm looking forward to watching him for the next several years.
This guy does a lot of things correct.
We were talking about it earlier, Billy, that he covers the ball as well as anybody in the game right now with that right shoulder.
posture.
Tracing technology provided by Trackman. It is interesting to see how each one of the players uses the Trackman differently. Some use it like Scottie Scheffler just for yardage, and then other guys like to dive deep into attack angle and launch and all kinds of different. You can get down the rabbit hole too deep.
Easily, very, very easily.
Well, a veteran in Tommy Fleetwood. Seen a handful of first-time winners already on the PGA Tour this season. And one of the most popular men who really burst onto the scene, it was down in Mexico, Jake Knapp is standing by with Collin.
Well, I'm on the range with Jake Knapp. You chalked up your first win, the Mexico Open at Vedanta. Coming into this week, can you give us a little bit of a story for our viewers at home on who exactly is Jake Knapp? We've heard these stories that you channeled your inner Patrick Swayze here, Roadhouse. Were you really a bouncer?
Yeah, I worked as a bouncer for 8-9 months or so. Lost my status on Korn Ferry after that kind of double wraparound COVID or Korn Ferry season. I missed it Q school and just realized, in the off season you're not going to make any money if you're not playing. So wanted to save up some money and just be in a better financial situation going into Canada that summer. So got a job working as a bouncer from October to May, and then started playing some pretty good golf, so haven't had to go back.
Well, you've done something well, obviously, with that win. It's your first trip here to the Pete Dye Master Pete, here for the RBC Heritage. What do you need to do well this week on this golf course in order to be in the mix come Sunday?
Yeah, it's kind of a position golf course, so make sure you pick your spots off the tee. I mean, it's not a lot of drivers. It's just more need to find the fairways and a lot of overhanging trees. So you need to be able to shape those second shots. But if you drive it well, you're gonna have a lot of birdie opportunities. So obviously, you kind of need to do everything well. But I'd say for the most part, for me, driving it straight and then give myself a lot of good looks.
Well, it's late in the day, Jake. We can't thank you enough for your time. Back to you guys.
The line is so thin from being a bouncer to a winner on the PGA Tour. Collin Morikawa is a 6-time winner. He'll be with us next. (1969). Harvard Town Golf Links Open. It was Jack Nicklaus, a young 27-year-old who had been asked to design the course He said, I need a little help. He engaged Pete Dye. Pete Dye went on to say, this design, this golf course made his career. Golf course open just in time for the first PGA Tour event at Thanksgiving. It was Arnold Palmer, the winner that year, the only player under par.
Really good week for Collin last week. Played well. Seems to have the swing back on track. I think it's when I watch these guys hit wedges, and you'll see it right there, that little cleaning tool that he has to clean the grooves out. You see the Trackman, you see the phone, all that. I mean, if you're going to get accurate data to use, you better have clean grooves. I mean, otherwise you're going to get that little, that spitter one time, then you get the maximum spin. So you've got to know the difference between the spinner and the spitter.
I was thinking about that this morning, actually. Funny that you mention it. What if I go to the local range and they got the old floater balls or the old top flights that are a couple of generations have been in the bucket? How am I supposed to understand how far I'm hitting the ball compared to if I'm playing a Pro V or something along those lines? What do you do?
Well, you're not going to get accurate feedback because one of those balls is going to fly nicely. One of them is going to S-bend up in the sky. So it's very, very difficult if you're at your local muni or whatever it is and you're trying to figure out exactly how far you're hitting things. Maybe you know somebody well enough that you can put a couple good balls down and somebody can go and retrieve them for you. But that's your best bet.
So just count on the good ones. If the ones that you think that you hit solid flies right, then that's the one you take your data off of.
Yeah.
Really played well. I think, going back to what Will Gray was talking about, driving the golf ball and putting the ball in the proper place, Collin is certainly doing that. I thought he hit more solid tee shots last week than I had seen him hit in a 4-round tournament. Than he's done that all year. I mean, I just thought from start to finish, but also the big adjustment he made. Finished the opening round on Thursday, on Friday morning, made the change with the putter. Hello.
And he's another one of those guys that he needs to see the ball falling to the right for him to play well. He needs his good strike, to fall to the right. We've seen so many guys get in trouble searching for a little bit of distance. Martin Keimer jumps to mind, trying to turn it over. Luke Donald did it for a little while. Collin Morikawa went down that rabbit hole for a little while, trying to hit it a little bit further. Now he's getting back, hitting that fade, and that's for him when he plays his best.
Yeah, that's his comfort zone. I mean, you get a lot of these guys out here, I mean, their cars don't even turn left. I mean.
Billy, just to give some math to your point about the driving, nearly 78% fairways hit. That is outrageous over the last few rounds for Collin Morikawa.
But even these shots, and Brendan, you'll get into this, 94 yards, 74 yards, whatever distance he's trying to hit, you can see that there's still the full body rotation with the upper body. I mean, you start looking at the way the players consistently turn through the shot with the chest, the arms, everything kind of matching up, whether they want to impart more spin, take a little spin off. It's all in the control of the body. You're trying to soften the arms, soften the hands.
And I think you see that with your best wedge players, the guys that move their body, and yes, that's how they control the speed and the spin, but there's still that full body rotation.
Watch the center of his chest. See, even when he's trying to take one downstairs, everything continues to move through the shot.
And worth noting, a lot of wedges being practiced here. Morikawa and this man, Xander Schauffele, the 30-year-old, third-ranked player in the world. Everybody has their Trackman out. Everybody's trying to dial in the data as much as they can. And earlier, Colin Swatton caught up with the brains behind the operation at Trackman.
Well, I'm here with what we would refer to as potentially the brains behind the operation. We see these orange boxes out on the PGA Tour from week to week. I'm here with Lance Vincent. He is actually the director of US Tour Elite Player Development. And also Harrison Shee, who is also a tour manager out here, works obviously with all the players out here on the PGA Tour. Let's talk Xander Schauffele in particular. 7 out of 10 guys at Tour Championships last year were using a product attached to the Trackman Performance Center. Can you talk to us a little bit about how Xander has actually employed the Performance Center and what it's done for his golf game?
So we get a lot of players on tour where we think about, they see the Trackman that's sitting there and it's very analytical. They're diving into all of these numbers, but in fact, a lot of times they're just using it to work on hitting specific shots, gaining those distances, taking that into what we do now, which is our Performance Center. Their strokes gain that they can compare to even more difficult than what they see on the course. So I think having that practice that's more difficult than what you see, have your practice be harder than what you see on the golf course. So they're spitting out distances, they're working on certain shot shapes, back left pins, front right pins. So they're engaging their caddy, they're working on that to when they get on the golf course, they've already hit these shots and they're not just going through the motions.
Yeah, we see it. We talk about it every week on the PGA Tour about the player-caddy conversation, the back and forth that they have. As an ex-caddy out on the PGA Tour, obviously working with Jason Day for so many years, the player-caddy conversation is something now that can be done on the range. Like you say, they can dial in. They probably won't normalize the numbers on a day like today where we've got a little bit of wind, so they can really start to manage those conversations a lot better.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think one of the hardest things, and you know this well, getting the reps of the conversation of what happens on the golf course. You don't want those rounds to be live and having that conversation the first time on the 72nd hole. So we get to do actual ball flight on the driving range. We have a little crosswind here. Let's talk through, is this a chippy 7-iron to the back left pin? Or do we try and turn this thing over and go with a full 8-iron? So they get reps on that. They're playing the winds. They're going through these, the dialogue, which is super important to where they get under the gun, they've already played it out. It's a lot less pressure over here, but they know what that shot feels like. They know the word, the key that worked for their relationship, and then they're going out and putting it into play.
Now, this one's directed at you, Harrison. We know, and we refer to Xander Schauffele as being what we call sneaky long on the driving range. He has gained a lot of distance off the tee. How's he using Trackman to be able to determine how far he's hitting it, with regards to not only just carry numbers, but obviously numbers with, angle of attack, launch, spin, things like that?
So Xander came out of the offseason with a little bit more muscle on him. He did a great job with his team, adding some size and some speed to hit it a little bit further. And, last year working with him, his ball speed would top out really at 179. He might touch 180 if it was really hot in the summer. This year now what we see, first couple swings of the day on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he's at 185 ball speed now. So he's really needed to use Trackman day in and day out to kind of recalibrate his distances. He's hitting it a lot further, and obviously, with adrenaline coming down the stretch, it might go even a little bit further, on the weekend. But just using it to really recalibrate his yardages, his stock yardages, it's been really helpful for him.
Well, as always, we enjoy your time. I know you've got to spend it with a lot of guys out here on the range. We're thankful for the relationship between Trackman and the PGA Tour, and everything that that you guys do, we're grateful for. So thank you very much, and back to you guys.
Now that was intriguing on so many levels. Let's start with puts on muscle, picks up ball speed. Now we're recalibrating. Talking about the third-ranked player in the world trying to recalibrate, Brendan, how far he hits his irons.
And it's not easy to do, Ned. You're so used to hitting a 7-iron 180 yards. Now all of a sudden you come out of an off season and that 7-iron's going 185, 190 yards. That's tough to wrap your mind around. And it does. It takes a lot of reps on the range and seeing those kind of numbers to actually believe it. But the more of this that I see, I realize how many tricks I missed when I was playing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you look at Xander, I mean, he's really not going at it that hard. I mean, he's really not going in there and trying to grab a little bit more. It's just the work that he's done. But I thought it was interesting. We referenced Aberg and the way he kind of plays a game on the range. They're doing the same thing, only they're attaching data to what they're doing. So, very interesting. But this golf swing right here, it's been good for a lot of years.
I'll tell you one other thing that I thought there was very, very interesting was that he's talking about adrenaline. Like it changes a lot as you start coming down the stretch on a Sunday afternoon. All of a sudden those irons are flying an extra 5, 6, 7 yards, and well, we all know that you start hitting it over a few greens and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So these guys know that, they understand it, and they're paying close attention to that.
Yeah, I would say when the players are at home, I'm going to say, unless they really try to go in and get it, I would say ball speed is probably 5 miles per hour less.
Just hooked up with Chris Como to work out some of the body mechanics. Seems to be working pretty well now for Xander. 43 consecutive cuts made. That's the longest active streak on the PGA Tour. On the flip side, gentlemen, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. It's time to make some picks when we come back to On the Range. Time now for Fantasy 4, presented by DraftKings. I am alongside Billy Kratzert and Brendan DeYoung, who together have played in 14 editions of this event, each having a top 10. But gentlemen, before we get your picks, let's go through the rules. Let's make sure we actually understand what we're doing here in our Fantasy 4. You're going to select 6 players, and you have to lock them in by the first tee time, not their tee time, the first tee time of the day. You'll have $50,000 in fantasy funds to spend, and all kinds of scoring and points, player per hole, finishes, streaks, aces. You can lose points too, though, if you make bogeys and doubles, so choose wisely. Take a look at some notable players and their salaries. Of course, Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy. If you're not picking Patrick Cantlay here this week, folks, what are you doing? This man has dominated this place. He hasn't won yet, but you got to think he's pretty close to getting in the winner's circle here. Last couple of years, a third place and a runner-up. All right, no pressure. But let's go ahead and get to the top picks, Billy.
I'm going to go with Ludvig Aberg, simply because January 2023, he was ranked outside 3,000 in the world. He is now number 7. He's had 2 runner-ups. He finished runner-up last week at the Masters. Had the opportunity to follow him at the Players. Very impressed. I mean, the young man, he drives it straight. The iron plays good, but what's even better is the demeanor on the golf course. Doesn't get rattled. Playing a golf course for the first time, not an issue. Love Aberg.
Well, you can look at Satoshi Kodaira in 2018. He won here on debut, so it can be done. All right, Brennan, what did you pick? Who do you think's going to win this thing, straight out?
I love Tommy Fleetwood. Tommy's going to win at some point soon. I think this is the week. Absolutely studly with the driver. Second best driving accuracy on tour. You have to drive it straight at Hilton Head. Comes in some pretty good form too. T7 at Valero, T3 at the Masters. I think Tommy's primed to get that first win.
If he gets the putter going, you always got to look out for Tommy. Value picks, we all like a good value. Who are you going with, Billy?
I'm going to go with Chris Kirk, simply because he hasn't been out of the Tour top 10 since he won the Century. So he's just kind of stayed there. He's very familiar with this golf course. He has an elite short game. He never gets ahead of himself. He's another one of those players that just kind of stays in the moment. So I like Chris Kirk.
Surprise, Georgia Bulldog picked by a Georgia Bulldog.
Shocking.
Brendan, you and I like a good value. Who are you going with?
I like Akshay Bhatia. Again, really good form. Won 2 weeks ago in Valero. He's a guy that loves to hit shots, loves to shape it. And I mean, you've got to use your imagination around Hilton Head.
He is an artist, especially when he gets the wedges in his hands around the green, which is so important. I think I might go with that one, Billy. Sorry. Nothing against Georgia Bulldogs.
That's all right. I get it.
All right, take a look. Let's just have a recap so we all know exactly who you picked so it's documented. Aberg, Fleetwood, Kirk, and Bhatia. And the salaries provided by DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official daily fantasy sports partner of the PGA Tour, and this week, new customers can play free for your share of millions in prizes with your first deposit. Download the DFS app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings, the crown is yours. Calabogie sound looking calm and ready for the 5th signature event of the season. Starts tomorrow morning. The field is loaded, and one of the top players in the world standing alongside our man, Colin Swatton.
Well, I'm on the range here with Tommy Fleetwood, coming off a T3 last week, just up the road in Augusta. What could you take out of last week that you feel you can sort of put into this golf course this week here for the RBC Heritage?
Well, I always think you've just spent, the whole week at Augusta preparing for that and playing there. You hope that your game is in very sharp condition, just with how tough that place plays, the margin of errors. So you're always pretty tired coming into this week if you just play, or hopefully you're tired. You've had a long week, and but there's a lot of elements of your game that I think you've honed in. You've been pretty sharp. So take that into this week really, and then play. It's a completely different challenge. Very different off the tee, very different into the greens, and the greens are a lot. Although you can have quite a lot of breaking putts here, they're generally a lot shallower and less undulating than Augusta. So, but yeah, there's a lot of that, and of course, confidence in golf is probably the most fickle thing ever. But if you're playing well, hopefully you can take that into this week as well.
We've made 4 trips around this Pete Dye Masterpiece. 2022, I believe, it was a T10. We had just a little bit of footage there of you on the range. We had your stepson in there, Mo. It's going to be pretty cool experience to have your stepson out here. I saw him last week at Augusta, again here this week. Just what does that mean to have your stepson out here, sort of getting to sort of follow every footstep on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, we have a good time. He came out, he traveled a lot with me last year. So, like, you know, living in Dubai, I'm just a long way from home, and Mo came out with me for, it was quite a while actually. He did quite a long stint from May onwards through the entire FedEx season. He loves being around, and I love him. You know, he's pretty clever about the game, and I like just asking him to help on certain things. And I try and keep like the structures of my swing pretty simple, and there's always certain things that I'll try and work on, whether it be head centered, whether it be arm track, alignment, things like that. And Mo's got a, you know, good enough eye to be able to be able to help with those things and deal with that. So I like him helping out and just having someone there that'll sort of take care of that. And he loves the game, loves being out on tour. It's for all our kids really, it's their dream to play out here. So having him out here at an early age can only be a good thing.
Well, that's such a cool experience. Great to be a part of it. Tommy Fleetwood, as always, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you, mate.
A family affair for the Fleetwoods. Nice track record here. 69 stroke average. Best finish, 11 under. Came back in 2022 where he tied for 10th. Of course, 2022, the winner was Jordan Spieth. He had made a couple of eagles early in the round on Sunday, but this one was something special. Tapped it in. Shook it off and earned a tartan blazer. It was clutch coming down the stretch for Jordan. Nearly backed it up, nearly went back to back, but it was a playoff loss to Fitzpatrick last season. But Billy, this is a place that he absolutely loves.
He does. You know, I think when you get to a golf course that requires the imagination of a player, I think that kind of gets the juices flowing for Jordan. Certainly the success that you have at a golf course or a tournament, you know, that will lend itself to the fact that, okay, I'm going to have a good finish. It didn't happen last week. He struggled last week. And in fact, he's been struggling. And, you know, maybe this is to fix it. Maybe you get to a spot like Hilton Head where you've had success. Maybe this is where, okay, I've got to drive it better. My iron play has to be sharper. This is a narrow, tight golf course, and I have to be laser sharp with my focus. So I look for him to play okay.
I couldn't agree more, and I think this is the ideal spot for Jordan to have to come play. I think he's struggling. He's not coming in with a whole lot of form, but I think the fact that he's going to be able to play golf shots instead of playing golf swing right now is going to be a great thing. You know, you've got to use your imagination around this golf course. You've got to see shapes, and I think he's one of the best in the game at that.
Not afraid to go low on Sunday over here either. 66 on the menu the last 2 years for Jordan.
And I think Jordan's one of those players that if you kind of look year to year, you'll probably get him in 5 or 6 week stretches to where he is that guy. And then you're going to catch him in another stretch of weeks where he's kind of right now to where he's not that sharp. So you never know. He's such a good player, and you never want to bet against him. But I think, like I said, I think he's going to find something this week.
In San Antonio, he said that he drove the ball beautifully, but it was a short game that left him. We saw a little bit of that last week, chipping from over the green at 15 into the water, for example. You concerned about that if you're looking at picking him this week, Brendan?
No, I'm not, because I think, you know, the whole grand scheme of things, Jordan's short game's not going to leave him for very long. He's just that good. You know, he's, I think, the best in the game using that leading edge of the wedge. I'm not concerned about that. I still worry a little bit about the driver. I know he said he drove the ball great there. I feel like when Jordan went to that exaggerated over-the-top move was the best that I'd seen him drive the ball in a long time. He's gone away from that now. He was hitting predominantly that left to right shot. He kind of knew where it was going. I think when Jordan starts playing under the plane and playing a little bit more from the inside, he gets that two-way miss going.
And those smiles quickly turn to snarls if you miss it both ways, especially around here.
You guys have a good day. He's looking it up.
Penny, for your thoughts, gentlemen, all the smiles on the practice area. Let's check back in with Collin Swatton.
Okay, I'm on the range here with Collin Morikawa. Coming from just up the road there at Augusta National into this week, what can you bring with you from last week that you feel will help you this week?
A lot. I mean, look, I had to figure out my irons, and my irons haven't been up to par for what I consider my type of golf, and found something last week. I'm glad it stayed throughout the entire week, and it's kind of, I've seen the same things kind of so far the past 2 days of practicing, so just kind of sticking to my game and doing that stuff. And look, I'm energized. I mean, after last week, after not being able to, you know, get the win, I want to get back on top. So, you know, there's a lot of motivation for this week.
A lot of speculation as what it may have been that you picked up last week that you're again putting into this week. Can you clear anything up for us there?
You know, for me, it's just when you look at a swing in full speed, you know, you can tell a lot of these guys. You look down this range and you can tell whether they hit or draw or fade. You know, it's pretty easy by the naked eye for a lot of us. And my swing was just looking a little bit too stuck and too draw-like. And, you know, I was still trying to hit cuts in those positions, and it's just not possible. So you can put the pieces together and make our, you know, make our guesses. But, you know, I've got my feel, and I'm just going to stick to that. And hopefully it just kind of continues down that path.
Well, it's known as a ball strikers golf course here. Pete Dye masterpiece, small greens. Also, too, the work is done on the putting green. You've had a T7 here back in 2021, I believe it was. What is it about this place that really appeals to you?
I mean, you got to play, you know, it's not a bomber hit driver for everyone. It kind of brings everyone together, and some guys like it, some guys hate it. For me, it's just, it is what it is. And but you do find yourself with a lot of mid irons. You know, you have a lot of 9 irons, 8 irons, 7 irons into the par 3s, into the par 4s. And when my game's on, I feel like my irons right there are the best of the best. And hopefully it's one of those weeks where, you know, you can dial them in, especially with the small greens. Like you said, you got to be able to hit the shots in the right spots.
I heard something that things are over with Mark Blackburn, and there's a possibility there may be a reuniting with Rick Sessinghouse. At the moment, handling business by yourself, I think that gives a player a real sense of ownership over the golf swing.
Sometimes. Look, Mark is one of the smartest people I've ever met, and I felt like last fall like that I needed to know a little bit more about the golf swing, and that's why I went to him, and that's truthfully, like, I learned so much. But what I also learned at the end of the day is, you know, my golf is still there. Like, it was still there, and sometimes you search for answers, and sometimes you get the answers, but they're not the answers you're looking for. And it was an amazing time working with Mark, and Rick and I have been talking here and there. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do, but look, my golf that I know I've seen, and that I know I have, and I know I will have, it's still there. It's just finding out the little pieces of sometimes what you think about on the golf course, what you feel in the swing, and thankfully we were able to figure some things out last week and put together a nice week.
Knowledge is power, so keep on getting those nuggets. Collin Morikawa, we can't thank you for your time enough today.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Man who sounds like he found a little something. I believe you call that trending. Might want to keep an eye on Collin Morikawa as we look into the 69-man field this week, the 5th signature event of the season. So much on the line. 700 FedEx Cup points, $20 million purse, and of course, the winner taking home over $3.5 million. What a week it's going to be here in Hilton Head. The most recent hole-in-one here at the RBC Heritage came last year. Patrick Cantlay on the 7th. This thing never left the flag. Look at it. Landed soft and rolled in like a putt. It wasn't good, it wasn't great, it was perfect. 22nd ace since we started keeping track of those here at Harbor Town. Got a feeling we might see another one of those this week. Definitely going to see Patrick Cantlay this week.
I was half joking, but no, seriously. I appreciate it.
And just a little off right now.
What a putt, what a player, what a guy.
And I think you heard the importance from Collin Morikawa. And I know you've heard me say this. Players go in and out of confidence more than they do form. And he's driving down from Augusta to here. You come in with confidence, and you've had the success that Collin Morikawa has had. I mean, that's important. And, you know, Cantlay may capture too because it's a golf course he loves.
Well, we referenced already the 3rd and 2nd place finishes the last couple of seasons here, but looking at the last 7 years, 3 thirds and that runner-up. And then you go even farther back, looking at how he plays Pete Dye golf courses. His record on Pete Dye golf courses is remarkable. PGA West, the Stadium course. I understand there are other courses involved, but 3 top 10s in a runner-up since 2019. Look at his record at the Stadium course, TPC Sawgrass, River Highlands. The list just goes on and on. So if you're trying to find confidence, comfortable on courses designed by Pete Dye, But you come in with a little confidence, Brennan. That's a nice concoction.
Yes, it is, very much so. And, you know, Cantlay is one of those guys. I remember having a conversation with Jamie Mulligan. The way he breaks down a golf course, it doesn't surprise me at all that he's had success on Pete Dye golf courses. Loves to plot a golf course backwards. So, again, that is no surprise at all. We know that Pete Dye golf courses are A to B golf courses. You've got to position them all correctly, and none more so than this week.
Yeah, and how do you create momentum? In talking to Jamie, he'll tell you golf is a game of momentum streaks, and you get it, you go, and how do you handle when things aren't going so well? You know, it's the ability to manage the round, but momentum's a big thing in this game.
You and I, Billy, were on the call out in San Diego, Farmers Insurance Oak. Patrick Cantlay had a wonderful first round, and he struggled. And on Sunday, for the first 5 events, his stroke average in round 1 was 64.5. Mm-hmm. His stroke average on Sunday, the final round, was basically 73. It was almost a 9-shot difference. Now, he's narrowed that margin a little bit, but the delta still exists. And so he's close, but how do you capture the momentum for Sunday?
Well, I just think there's been the ball striking issue to where, okay, we saw how good it was in that opening round on the North Course at Torrey Pines. There just wasn't a carryover to the next day. You know, when I look at Patrick Cantlay, he's really not going to get, you know, overly concerned. He's going to kind of flatline on the golf course. But I don't know. It's a hard thing to gain momentum.
Yeah, very much so it is. It's you know, obviously comes with confidence, and you know, you can gain confidence just from coming down the road to a place that you really like. Mm-hmm. You can completely change your mindset. You know, you've had past successes in a place, and maybe that's all he needs this week.
.32 stroke average for Cantlay in the 6 starts. Again, I will say, if you're not picking Patrick Cantlay in some fantasy pool out there, folks, what are you doing? Thanks for spending some time with us here on the range as we are getting ready to head out and looking forward to the first round tomorrow in Hilton Head. Billy, offer me some closing thoughts on what you expect to see tomorrow.
The guys that hit the ball well, tee to green, strokes gained tee to green, that's going to be hugely important. That's basically why you had the champion in Matthew Fitzpatrick. I mean, he was plus 10.85, so it was an amazing ball striking week. That's what you need to win here.
Brendan?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's going to be a great ball striking week. I'm excited to see that there are a lot of the biggest names in the game starting to play really well at the same time. So it should make for a very exciting weekend.
And many of them are right here with us this week as we look ahead to this signature event, the 5th of the season here on the PGA Tour, attacking a golf course that's angular. It's old school. Do you take the driver? Do you have to play with a little bit more strategy? I guess one final question is, do you hit driver or do you play with the irons and just pick your places around?
I like what Homa said. You know, he's got that low little stinger that he can move left to right, put the ball in the fairway. I don't think you can keep your foot on the gas the whole time.
I think you try and overpower this golf course, you're going to end up in a lot of trouble.
You're supposed to get some wins coming in on the weekend. That will be some kind of fun. This place can stand up. It's a strong, little quirky course it's been described as, but you better have your game organized if you're going to win here at Hilton Head. Well, tomorrow morning we're going to get underway at one of the storied venues on the PGA Tour. 69 of the world's best players are here for the 5th signature event on the PGA Tour this season. We look forward to your company tomorrow on the Golf Channel and PGA Tour Live. Promises to be a sensational week in Hilton Head.